Well, hello, less than 24 hours ago I ordered some PLA and this big box, more of that in a second, and I'm pleased to say here it all is. And I thankfully didn't need the PLA just yet to finish off my Atlas, so as you can see that's all printed. The legs, the torso and this arm are loose, this is glued, the front bits are glued. The quality's not bad for a low res print. It's going to be interesting to see if I can get slightly better quality. In the background you can hear one of these being printed. I've actually managed to print 3 of these, having printed the Atlas, so I actually had a bit more on my roll than I thought. But these also gave me a problem. They actually adhered to my glass bed so well that the third one I printed, when I peeled it off, it actually pulled the surface of the glass off with it. Now I had left it, so the temperature gauge was showing the glass bed was less than 20 degrees, but yeah, it still did that, so that's pretty good bed adhesion. So I'm not sure if that's a problem with the glass or just ridiculous bed adhesion. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the PLA and then get into this box, which is the main purpose of this video. Well, the PLA that I've ordered is this Prima Value Prima Filaments, and I think I went for black. Let's have a check. Dark grey. I actually went for dark grey. It was the cheapest option. They did have a very nice looking black, but I think that was more expensive. Comes in this nice little wooden box, and it's a pretty standard roll of PLA, to be honest. Now it doesn't actually tell you, from what I can see, what temperature it likes to be printed at, so I'm going to go with my regular PLA settings. I've actually realised I've been printing my PLA at quite a low temperature, so that might be a bit of an issue. I might want to slightly crank up the heat when I come to print this stuff off and test it out. So that's what I'm going to be switching to, just to see if it makes a big difference compared to the camel filament. Let me just grab a little off roll piece I've got. So this is what I've been using up to now. It's the translucent Camel K filament. It's slightly brittle. If I show you, you bend it and it goes quite white, and it will eventually snap. It's not too bad though. Let me just clean that off so I can actually use this piece. So I might just use this just to try it out to see how it compares to this one here, and we'll see what we end up with. So this stuff on my Anet printed these, and I've got 4. The 3 I've already printed, and the 4th one you can hear in the background. And the quality's been pretty good. Nice flat bottom off the glass bed. So really pleased with that, but how's this going to compare? Anyway, I'm sure that's very exciting, but not as exciting as what's in this box, so let's get this open. Yes, inside the box, a nice load of black expanded foam. That's very exciting, isn't it? But what's more exciting, what's underneath it, I have managed to grab myself a CR10s. Let's have a look at it. Well, upon opening, you've got the bottom element with a load of blue insert plastic, which by the looks of it hasn't actually been fitted, which is great. Because although this stuff looks great, I have been reading that it can interfere with your print a little bit. So I'm not going to bother fitting it, to be honest, because, you know, why bother? A little bit of aesthetics, but at the risk of things rubbing. You probably can't see it. Let me just move the camera here. Because it's a 10S, it's got the strain adapter pre-fitted. That's looking good, and it's a really high quality part. That looks like they've done a good job at adapting it from the Thingiverse model, which they did actually get permission for. I'm also pleased to see that the sticky sheet isn't applied to my glass, and it's a nice rounded edge. So it looks like it's got all the tweaks that make the 10S worthwhile over the regular 10. Let's get this top layer out and have a look underneath. Well, getting that top layer out was quite hard work. It is surprisingly heavy. So we've got the little brace plates for the side panels, so that's good to see. We've got the little controller board which is quite cold. I'm going to need to leave this to warm up. We've then got obviously our upright with the extruder, and then our little box of bits. So let's get it all out the box and laid out on the table. Well, the slight worry is I've found this screw. It's obviously come from somewhere. I have to work out where this is missing from and reattach it. Now this is a little bit of an interesting development. In other YouTube videos I've seen that this has all been sort of like shrink wrapped, a bit like the this stuff in the background you might just about be able to see. But it's been zip tied on my version here. So let's get this snipped away using my handy dandy snippers from the Anet, and I believe we should have something similar in the box that I got from Creality. Now I was saying Creality, I'm actually lying. Although it is Creality, it's actually, is it Hictop, I think they're pronounced. Let's get the control box over. So there you go. It's actually a Hictop branded Creality. Now my understanding is they're pretty much the same. So hopefully I've made a wise investment in this particular unit, and the packaging looks really good. The belts and everything, that they all look okay from first glance, but obviously once I start getting this all assembled and everything, I'm going to be able to work out what's going on. Now I have seen assembly videos, and I did download some PDFs before this arrived, so it's going to be interesting to see what's in the brown cardboard box that I put to one side. But in the meantime, let's get this all ready to go. In our extras box we've got the spare tubing, the test PLA, so that's good stuff, some tape, which is always useful, but probably won't be using that, the spool holder, which, oh that's interesting, my silica gel has had a bit of a moment. All the silica's come out the bag, that's not so good. Oh, scrapey tool. I believe this is the sensor for the filament, which doesn't have a screw hole, it just pushes on, which is a little bit worrying for me. I'd rather this actually attached correctly rather than just push fit. Some rack screws, whatever they are. Yeah, some clippers and tools and all that, so that's good stuff. So yeah, it looks like the clippers are identical to this type. They're pretty good clippers actually, although my rubbery bits have started pushing through. What else we got? USB cable, not likely to use that unless I'm upgrading the firmware. Is that a spare hot end? Yeah, nice, some spare parts. Oh, that's nice. There you go. Pick your colour. That's a nice little touch. Oh yes, an acupuncture needle. I believe it's actually a nozzle cleaner. The infamous USB with hopefully a cat. What's this? Oh, a spare switch by the looks of it. And two power cables, a European and a regular UK. And when we get to the bottom, we've got a piece of paper. How are you? Thanks for your order. To give you a better experience, please kindly note that there is an appearance upgrade about this printer. We provide blue and orange stick, and you can DIY how to do it. See this QR code to work it out. And then a bit of a weird warranty. Okay, right, let's chuck a load of this back in. So I'm going to want the British power cable. I'm not going to want any of these spare parts or my little injector just now. I'm not going to want the USB, that can all go to one side. Everything else I'm likely to want to use at some stage today. And yes, I think we're ready to start trying to assemble this. Now, interestingly, there is no installation manual, so I guess the clue is information. So I'm going to have to cut away now and go and have a read of this, just to make sure I don't screw things up. Well, in the interest in showing you everything as you unbox it, there is some foam and some zip ties holding this all nice and secure. This looks a little bit different from your standard Creality stuff that I've seen. So is this a new upgrade for Creality or just Hictop? not sure. And as I say, these are basically Creality units because they're branded Creality. There is some arrangement, and the infamous black filament test has been done on this hot end by the looks of it. This is a Bowden style system, so we've got some cables to get attached there. Yeah, okay. Right, so off to the manual. Now, while I wait for all the instructions to copy across so I can print them off and watch the video and so forth, I've just flipped over the hotbed. It's got some insulation padding pre-attached. I believe we do need to check that these spinny bits are working correctly. I have seen some advice to recommend removing these two middle bits because they create a potential bind, which you don't need. These little screw knobs here are the bits that you can cover up with these little attachments. So if I remember correctly, you unscrew these, put these on, then push these in, and you've got a nice big adjustment then. It's got some feet pre-fitted and screwed in. It's all looking pretty good so far. I've got the padding out. There does seem to be a little bit of oiling on the uprights there, and I've hopefully inserted the Bowden tube correctly into the feeder. And I don't know, these new are with the little red insets. I thought they were normally more kind of sprung bits, so quite a few little updates compared to the versions I've seen on the web. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but just sort of where my finger is here, it's looking quite greasy on the rail. Okay, according to the 8GB SD card, let's just check, is it, oh, apparently it's a SanDisk, although I hate to say it, I'm not 100% convinced it's a genuine SanDisk, but yeah, maybe I'm doing them a disfavour, but there you go. According to this, there is a 7-minute sort of Chinese lady doing the assembly. Looks all pretty standard for a CR10 design. Then there is another video from Tiny Machines which has a little bit more detail, for example talking about adjusting the little rollers that I was talking about. And then there's an extra video called 22, I think, .mpeg, which is about how to insert the coloured elements to your frame, which I'm not interested in. So I'm just going to wipe down some of the excess oil on the rails and then start assembling, which basically I'm going to start off by looking at the bed over here, checking the rollers and the rails, and then fit in my aftermarket adjusters. I don't need to do the cable holder, that's already been pre-fitted. So the only other thing to worry about is the cable guider, which, because this has this sensor, in theory you use this instead, but I'm not 100% convinced by this particular element, but I'm not sure what happens if you try and use the printer without this. I haven't had a good read of the manual yet to see if there's a nice easy way to just disable it in the control panel. There probably is, we'll come to that when we do. And then of course it's a question of, do I use this or do I print off a new adapter? And this is an interesting looking tube. I'm not sure how it attaches. Normally there's like 2 screw bolts to attach it, so I'll have to have a look at that and work out the details of that. So quick wipe down and then check the rollers. I'm pleased to say you do get the required tools to adjust these rollers. So yeah, these are a little bit tricky to adjust. Now you can tighten and loosen them up via the Allen key, and as you can see, as I'm tightening and loosening it, it is actually moving this around. Now this one here seems very loose. This one here, oh, that's a bit fiddly. Now there's not a huge amount of instruction on how to actually go about sorting these out. I mean, the videos I've seen, I'll just get these so they're right, but how exactly do you know if it's right? I mean, there seems to me to be quite a lot of flop left and right there, so that's definitely something. So I'm going to have to stop filming so I can actually concentrate on getting this sorted out. Okay, well, I think I've managed to sort out the rollers. Whilst doing that, this little kind of T-nut bit seems to have fallen out from somewhere, so I'm going to have to work out where that's come from. The other thing I've noticed, which to me seems a bit odd, that the motor here has the connector pointing straight back down the bed. Now, I would have thought that's a little bit dangerous with this coming back, that there's a chance that you know, you could get stuff snagging, so I'm surprised that's not either pointing out backwards or down. Obviously pointing upwards wouldn't work because of catching on there, so not sure. And the bed does still seem a little bit wobbly, so I am going to have another look at that. Well, I'm pleased to say the mystery of these two loose bits has been solved. It's from this bracket here, which goes on the side with the extruder. It's all quite loose, and that's obviously so you can fit it on and then you tighten it down once it's in, and obviously this bit then twists around to grip in the frame. So just pop that on and quickly just loosely spin that round. Oh, maybe not that much. There you go. So problem solved there. Just waiting for my last wagon wheel to print so I can show you how to attach it. But basically, as you can see, it goes on there. I'm still a little bit worried about this bed. Seems to be very jiggly. I fiddled with it a couple of times. I think I'm going to have to go look up a solution for that, because to me that's the potential for a lot of jiggliness. Now, I do know on the bigger beds they've now gone with 2 rails. I'm wondering if one solution might be to kind of fit another rail close here to sort of hold the rollers. Anyway, I'm going to have a look and see exactly what's going on. As I say, I've had a quick couple of fiddles because I'm keen to get this assembled, but equally, you know, that just seems way too wobbly to me. Okay, well, in this bag labelled rack screws, you've got these long nuts here which go in the bottom of the frame to attach the top frame, so that's what we're going to be doing next. Okay, to install the wagon wheel, basically just unscrew this regular attachment here. You then will find it fits quite nicely in the printed part, and then I've actually been fitting it this way up. I guess you could fit it the original orientation. I've actually been fitting it this way up with the smooth flat side of my print touching the bed. So this is going to go back on that way round with the printed part in between. And here is the printed part. Now I've got this nice flat surface which actually has a little bit of a lip, so you can't actually fit this in that way round. So you'll notice when you flip it over, hopefully you can see the light is a bit harsher. Can you see that lip there? Well, that allows you to line up the grooves on the edge there, push down, and if you don't get it straight, it's a bit of a pain. So let me just take care of that. Okay. And then you push down, it clicks in place, and then you just pop it on and screw it on. So I'm going to need to flip this over to hold the screw and just tighten it up. Okay, well, I did come across a video on the USB stick that says if you turned the little hexagonal bits underneath these bits here, you can actually adjust this to take out the slack. I think it was Titan Bed was the name of the video, and I believe if you look up Tiny Machines, they've actually got a video showing you how to do this. So I'm just going to tighten it up, and hopefully that will be the last time I need to talk about the wobbly bed. Okay, so I've put the tool in, twisted it round clockwise, and now the wobble has gone. So it's just a question of tightening up. Now, if you actually put it, so let me move this without damaging things. If you put it with the motor at the back, then the right hand side you've got the hex nut that's just a smooth nut on the left hand side. Reach with your tool, rotate it clockwise, it will tighten it up, and then when you pull the roller it will actually move the bed backwards and forwards, just like it said in the video. So yeah, make sure you have a good look at the USB stick. I just overlooked that when I was quickly glancing at the videos. So ideally, when you get the unit, grab hold of the USB stick, have a look at all the videos, and also you might want to print out the wonderful English instructions. The machine is basically installed before leaving the factory, so only some simple steps need to be taken for you. Yeah, you will come across a lot of kind of Chinese English, which, you know, I can't begrudge them their English, it's way better than my Chinese, but yeah, you do have to interpret it a bit. Anyway, I think we are now finally ready to actually assemble the printer. Well, I'm now at the really fiddly stage where I've got to feed a nut up, like this, into the upright. So let's just get that taken care of. Well, as you hopefully can just about see, I've rotated the printer, inserted the nuts and just lightly screwed them in, so I just need to tighten them up to have the top piece bed down. Okay, so a little bit of steady cam required, but basically just put it in, spin your Allen key, get it nice and torqued up, and then you're set for this stage of the installation. Okay, and there we go, and that feels pretty steady, much less wobbly than my Anet, for example, and with the bed now cinched up as well, there's no wobble there, everything's looking good, feeling much happier now. So let's have a look at the installation steps. So we've done this, which is the kind of undo everything, get your frame, connect the base unit. So this is where we're up to. Step 2, install the limit switch. So we do that, it tells you how to fix it down there, and then we're on to sorting out the wiring and the filament sensor. So this looks like it's going to be a bit fiddly. This is going to have to kind of click on here, and to do that you're going to need all these bits lined up, so we need to twist them so they're in the correct alignment and then sort of push them on and then screw it up. Okay, they're on pretty well, and it's nice that these give you a little bit of extra stability, so let's just loosen these off because they're really tight. So it looks like they've been oh dear, that's a little bit of a problem one. Yeah, that's going to need to be really, okay. Hopefully that's not going to affect my ability to fit this. Yeah, it is. Okay, let me just take care of that. So a little bit of plier action to stop it twisting when I was trying to loosen it off, and okay, this one's decided to be difficult now. Come on. Okay. That didn't take too long. Right, okay. Have that way, that way. Go in, you swines. There you go. Right. They're not too fiddly. Bit of dramatic effect for the camera there. But yeah, and then you just tighten them up nicely. Hopefully you can sort of see what's going on. But it's all pretty easy stuff really. This is taking me hardly any time. I mean, this got delivered at, what was it, 12 o'clock, something like that. We're about 2 o'clock, but I've had to stop for grabbing some food and printing out the instructions and copying across some files. So I reckon maximum an hour, and most of that was because I was waiting for these things to print out and trying to work out how to get this tightened up, which, you know, once I worked out how to do it, took me a minute. So I reckon if you actually read the instructions properly and get cracking, you can be done in 45 minutes to this stage without any trouble at all. I'm obviously taking a little bit of time because I'm having to think about how I'm going to try and film stuff. You know, do I actually need to film myself tightening these bolts up? Well, probably not, but it's always good to, just in case someone wants to have a pretty good idea of what's involved. Well, according to the installation instructions, the next bit for me to do is get this bit and just push it on here, which, as I said, I'm really not happy with. I really do feel that this should be a screw-on part, so it doesn't come off. I guess they take the point of view it's a tight fit, it's going to be perfectly fine. Hopefully you can see that. It's this little bit here just pushes on. The next and most important bit is to check your voltage. Obviously, if you put it to 110 here in the UK, you're going to fry this unit and you're going to be totally knackered. So yes, it's saying 230 there. So obviously if I was to move it in the opposite direction, it would say 110. So there you go. Now when it comes to connecting things up, you've got these weird connectors here. So you've got a 4-pin connector, which looks like the bottom one, and then a 6 or 8 pin, haven't bothered counting it, which is this top one here. It is keyed, so in theory it can only go in one way. But you've then also got all these little stops here. So you've got this one here, which has a label in Chinese that I can't read, which I assume is the filament guide. You've then got this one here with a little Y, and I assume this one says Y. Yep, so little Y indicator. Get that to focus a bit better, hopefully. So that's obviously going to go on the Y-axis. So what is the Y-axis? Well, that's where you've got this little diagram saying this is, what's that? That's a 1, I think. So that's your X-axis. 2 is your Y-axis. 3 is your Z-axis. 4 is your E-axis, and then you've got 1, 2 and 3 in circles, which is the limit switches. Right, so this X here has a part labelled M and another part labelled X. Oh, hold on, is that actually an E maybe? Yeah, I think that's E. Therefore, we're going to need to get that all hooked up on this near bit, if I remember correctly. And then we've got 2 connectors for the Y, and then we should have, yeah, another set of connectors, which are the Z, which is down at the bottom just behind the control box. So let me get those all connected. Right, well, when it comes to assembling your 10S, you might find it easy to know that this bit here with 3 connectors is for the connections closest to the extruder, etc. Whereas the other cable, this one here, which is also labelled, is to go all the way across to the other side there. So let me get this hooked up and then we're all pretty much done. The other issue you're going to have is this little connector here for the sensor, which I actually wonder if you're best fitting it before screwing this plate on. So I might unscrew this plate if I can and fit this, because it's a little bit tight getting in there with my chubby fingers. Okay, well that's a little bit fiddly. The extruder, labelled as E, is this cable here. This cable here, X, then very tricky to get in. The limit stop for X is in this little plastic shroud. I still haven't managed to get my Z connected yet, so that's my final step, and then we're all good to go. Then I guess it's plug in and cross my fingers and hope I don't have the same experience I had with the Anet. Well, the final thing, by the looks of it, is to get the spool holder attached, either that way round or that way round. Probably going to go that way round, and then power it up. Okay, so we've got the glass back on. We've taken off the protective coating on the glass, and we've put some filament in. I guess it's the moment of truth time, so I'm going to plug it into the mains and see what we get. Where's my little USB? Let's just pop that in the SD card slot here. Which way round does it go? Right, going to have to check that. How do you actually insert your SD card? Okay, time to plug in and power on. Hopefully no bangs and smoke or any other dramatic excitement. Well, that's a good start. Fans working. It's not as loud as I was led to believe by some videos. So info screen, prepare, auto home. Oops. Right, looks like we've got a bed height issue. So let's get that sorted. So move axis, let's move 10mm, and we want to move. Oh, we can't move our Z. Why can't we move our Z? Disable steppers. And let's see, can we? Oh no, wow. Okay, how do we move the Z on this? I'm going to have to look up that. That's a little bit interesting. So main. Let's have a look. That's not print, but yes. Okay, so it's reading the SD card, and we want to keep it on that. Control. Temperature. So okay. Yep. Okay, that's a nice little menu screen. So far so good, just need to take care of this bed leveling. So I'm going to try the piece of paper trick. Can I get a piece of paper underneath them? Okay, obviously you might have to adjust this after heating up the bed, but okay, am I going the right way there? Yeah, I think that might be it. Now if I vary, okay, need to disable the stepper motors again, and yeah, okay, these clips are a pain. There you go. Right, can I get my piece of paper under? Oh yeah, loads of space. So twiddle my giant knobs, which I printed out. Am I going the right way? Or am I making the gap bigger? I think I'm making the gap bigger. God, I can't speak. Okay, this is going to be what takes you most of your time, particularly with a new printer, is getting this all sorted out. Right, okay, what's going on here? Okay, that's a massive gap. Let's probably should have printed some arrows on this to tell me which way tightens and which way loosens, because apparently I'm an idiot and can't work it out. Okay, well I think I've got the bed fairly level, so I guess let's auto home. Oops. Right, okay, I haven't checked everything's 100% level, so let's do bed auto leveling, which sadly is not in fact bed auto leveling. It is, did I do that? Next step. So it will home in one location, allow you to check it. Right, this is a nice feature, but I'd much rather it was just proper auto leveling, which is where you sometimes think maybe I should have got myself a Prusa because of that Mark III's ability to just auto feed and auto level. It's just so much better than having to manually faff around with printers like this. Okay, what's going on here? Why is this not? That's a little bit of a worry. Okay, let's go to the next step and see what happens. Okay, right, I think I'm going to need to refiddle with the bed. It's not quite level by the looks of it. Okay, well let's try that again. So, prepare, auto bed leveling, next step. Now I haven't really done much cable management here. I'm going to need to do that because the cables are a bit of a mess at the moment. Okay, got my little piece of paper here. Let's try that again. Yeah, that seems okay. Obviously, without a heated bed, this is only a rough leveling. I'm going to probably have to heat the bed up to properly level it. That seems okay. Maybe a little bit high. But we'll sort of manually tune it. Yeah, I think we're okay there. I'd rather it was a little bit high and tweak it down rather than too low and grind into my glass. Yeah, and then I think it goes to the middle, and yeah, that feels okay. Maybe a little bit high, we'll see. So let's give it a go and print the XYZ calibration cube. So sand that off, and it's going to take a little while. So we've got 300 and 600, I hope not. Oh, I see, that's the build volume, 300 by 300. Okay, so currently we're heating the bed up to 60 degrees, and I think the print head we've got set to 200 or 210. This PLA prints at 190 to 210, so I'm going to try it at the slightly higher heat, just to obviously make sure everything flows through it nice and smoothly, and we'll tweak it, and then when we're all done we will have a go with this. Now I'm expecting this print to be a bit of a disaster because I've not really done enough tweaking yet. So going to be a while, so I'm going to cut back to this once it's had a chance to settle down. Okay, so this is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for the print head to heat up and the print bed to heat up. Now I think it heats up the print bed first, then moves across and heats up the hot end. It's currently trying to print stuff here, 100% flow rate I think that is. I'm not sure what the 3 is that the Z axis? Yeah, the Z axis by the looks of it, so X, Y and Z axis, and the fan currently is not spinning. So can we get information? So we can tune, we can pause, okay, good. Right, so I'm going to pause the video and just let everything heat up. And there we go, we have printing. Now as predicted it's way too high, so I guess we're going to have to eyeball tweak it. And okay, that's making a right old mess as predicted. Might cancel that, so that is just so stop print and control. No, where's the prepare, is it? I'm gonna have to get used to this menu. Auto home, there you go. And it's dragging all the PLA with it because it's such a disaster. Okay, well that was sort of predicted to happen, so it's not a total disaster. And let's disable the steppers, and oh, this glass is nice and warm, so yeah, there you go. Little bit of PLA. What's it actually look like? Yeah, not too bad really. Well, this here is the second attempt at printing, and it was working really well, and then it all started going a bit wrong. Now I think it's because I didn't put any adhesive on the bed, so if you look very carefully you might not be able to quite see it, but the bottom has actually started to curl upwards, so it's lifted from the bed, and I think it's then caught and started spaghetti hell. So I've got what I think is a working setup now. It's going to take me a little bit of time to dial in all the settings. I think the higher temperature is a little bit too much for this old K-Camel filament, so I'm just going to print off a cube in it and then switch to the actual filament I want, which would also give me a chance to work out how to change filaments on this printer. Now, a couple of negatives. Obviously adjusting this for the jiggling in reality wasn't too hard, but for some reason it didn't leap out at me on the USB stick how to do that. Still having trouble working out how to move the Z-axis up via the control panel. The menu system being different from the Anet is going to take a little bit of time to get used to, but the biggest problem I have is actually this lovely hot end. It looks really swish, but I can't actually see what's printing very easily. In fact, I have to actually lower the camera right down to see it, which you'll see in the clip coming up now. So that's a little bit of a pain. You almost have to be level with the bed to actually see what's going on underneath this shroud. But apart from that, really, that's about it. You know, the the packaging was good, the assembly was good. I think by the time I've finished editing this video together, it's probably going to be half an hour-ish, and that's about how long it takes to assemble. It took me a bit longer because I was running around filming stuff, looking stuff up, finding tools and all that. But if you get yourself all prepared and just sit down and get going, as I say, half hour, no trouble, 45 minutes definitely. I'd be amazed if it takes you longer than an hour. However, that's to get it so you're at this stage where you're starting to print. Now, if you've never owned a 3D printer before, if you don't print these kind of wagon wheel bits off, adjusting is going to be a little bit harder because the knobs are smaller, but you can do it. So in theory, one of the first print jobs you're going to want to do is to print off these, in my opinion. They're pretty easy to fit, a little bit harder once you've assembled the frame. So ideally, if you can get them printed off before you get your printer, that would be best, but as I say, not a requirement. The instructions, not brilliant, but there are lots of YouTube stuff, and I think there's a Reddit forum and probably a Facebook forum. So there's lots of really good stuff out there to facilitate you getting up to speed as quickly as possible. I do think you're going to want some form of adhesive on your glass bed, so I'm using 3D lac, but you might want to use watered down PVA or Pritt Stick. Pritt Stick being better than PVA. I think with PVA you pretty much have to wipe it off and reapply it after every single print. But at the moment, as long as I can get the bed leveled and all my settings dialed in fairly quickly, much quicker, much simpler solution than the Anet A8. Now, my Anet A8 is quite an old one now. It's probably about, well, a good 12 months old, maybe more like 18 months. I have heard the quality has dropped off on the A8, and of course there is now their CR10 clone, which I want to call the A10 or A11, I can't remember. So really it comes down to, I think, without seeing more printers, it comes down to three options really. Do you want this type of printer, FDM if I remember correctly, or do you want an SLA? If you want an SLA, it looks like the Moai is one of the best ones out there. It's about $1,000. However, if you want one of these sort of printers, you're left with two: the CR10 range or the Prusa. Now the Prusa has a small print bed, but has high quality components, brilliant support. Basically, this printer though is a little bit more fiddly, needs a little bit more kind of tinkering, but is a lot cheaper and also prints much bigger. So, you know, do you want to pay a little bit more for the Prusa? I must admit I was very tempted, but I figured as I've got an Anet, to upgrade to a Prusa is a good step, don't get me wrong, but I'm not getting the benefit of the larger print bed if I do that. Yeah, okay, the Prusa is a little bit bigger, but I have a couple of print jobs where they do require a 300mm print bed. In particular, Printable Scenery have some sort of gangplanks which are about 290, 300mm long. They're only about 2 inches wide, but that's just almost impossible to print on the Prusa, even diagonally. So that sort of swayed me to try out the CR10. It had the advantage of being cheaper, and it also had the advantage of being available. Now, I bought my copy off Amazon. I got it within 24 hours. If you buy it off GearBest, then your time lag might vary. If you're buying a Prusa, I believe if you order today, you might get it in March. So that's the pros and cons. Do I want a Prusa? Yes, I do. I think the quality is without reproach. It's just superb. Do I want them to bring out a Mark IV or an i4 maybe? Yes, an i4, which would be a 400 by 400 by 400 print, would be fabulous, particularly with all the other Prusa add-ons. But yeah, the hype does seem, as far as I can tell, to be deserved on this. This is a really good printer from what I'm seeing so far. Now, obviously, once I've got the printouts and I've started tweaking the settings to see how good a quality I can get out of the printer, that's a different story. But I mean, even this failed print, if I look very carefully at the layer lines, which almost certainly aren't going to show up on the camera here, you know, if I can check that out and compare it to my Anet, I think I'm going to get an increase in quality just from my initial attempt, but yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out the CR10s. All the optional extras that are added on are great. The only thing that would tip this over the edge would be built-in proper auto bed leveling. If it had that, I would be pretty happy, I think, with this. The auto filament feed, that would be a nice touch, but not what I'm desperate for. Anyway, there you go. Apologies if you picked up some buzzes in the background. I think people are sending me text messages, so let me go deal with those, and then next time you come back I'll actually have you some printouts to show you. Well, here you go. We've got a cube from my Anet A8 which I printed over 9 months ago now. Probably in the first 2 months of me owning a 3D printer, when the PLA was nice and fresh. Let's see if we can get it to focus. As you can see, pretty good quality. Not perfect, but not bad. And I did print it on a bed, so it's got a rough finish. Here is the XYZ cube off my CR10, and very good quality. There is a difference though. This is basically the first print I've ever done on the CR10. You saw the earlier failure. There's a couple of little issues. I think possibly because I've got the PLA set to too high a temperature. The layer lines, I'm not sure if you can quite see. Let's see. We get here. I don't know if you can see that the quality I think is slightly better on the CR10. Now, big deal you might think, slightly better, you know, you can tweak the A8 and all that. This is with my Anet tweaked for maximum. This is pretty much straight out the box printing, so it's not perfect, but it is pretty damn good. And you know, for a kind of assemble and print model, right, I'm pretty happy. The big difference with this PLA is 12 months old. This is literally the last dregs of my K-Camel PLA that I bought when I got my Anet. That's how old this PLA is, and it's done a pretty good job with it. So I'm at this stage pretty happy. I'm going to do some proper prints. So I'm going to do a benchy, just because, you know, that's always a good test. So I've done my cube, I'm going to do a benchy, and then I'm actually going to get on with proper prints that are actually relevant to me. And I am very impressed. Now my Anet, with a lot of work, with a lot of tweaking, does get fairly good results. It was starting to struggle a little bit with this old PLA. In fact, the wagon wheel bed adjusters were printed with the same PLA as this on my Anet, and they did a pretty good job. So the Anet can be made to produce really, really good prints. I think it's going to need a little bit more work than a CR10s straight out the box. Now, what's pleasing to me is, if this is the quality I'm getting straight out the box, after I've tweaked the settings, after I've fiddled around with the setup, am I going to get similar jumps in performance from my CR10? Maybe not. Maybe it's already, you know, let's say the Anet is a 3 out of 10 out the box. Once you've tweaked it, it's a 6 out of 10. Maybe the CR10s is a 6 out of 10 out the box. Once you've tweaked it, 7 or 8 out of 10. The Prusa, I think, is more like an 8 out of 10, and once you've tweaked it, a 9 out of 10. So it's going to be interesting to see. The actual printer, the CR10, is not that much bigger than the Anet frame, but with the control box off to the side and the spool holder and all that, I reckon it's almost double the size of the Anet once you've got it all sort of set up. But the actual base, this bit here, is not really that much bigger than an Anet, ironically, despite the print bed being a bit bigger. Now, I did discover the solution to the Z height, by the way. Apparently I was trying to do it in 10mm jumps. You can only do it in 1mm jumps, so that's one solution to one of the problems I found in the video. So I think I'm going to end this video here. I've got plenty of footage which I'm going to edit I think the total build time ended up being about 45 minutes for me in the end, partly because I spent a lot of time faffing around trying to get the heat bed wobbles sorted. Now if you took out the kind of 10-15 minutes I wasted on that to do the less than a 1 minute solution that you actually needed, as I say, once you've assembled one of these you could probably do the second one in half an hour tops. Then you're going to spend time on bed leveling, and that's the big problem with all 3D printers, is getting the bed level sorted. Now I'm hoping that this printer, once the bed is leveled, it's going to be pretty static, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some more prints, and the Anet's going to get retired for a bit. I've got to decide, do I want to keep it as a second printer, do I want to keep it as a spare printer, or do I just want to get rid of it, because if I get two printers I'm thinking I'm going to want a Prusa or another CR10s at this stage. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. As you can hear, the benchy is starting to print, so I'm going to leave that running. It's going to be a couple of hours I reckon, and yeah, see you on the next video.